very happy to be the moderator for the next roundtable. Come in, all the speakers. We're going to speak about go-to-market, which is a very important topic as a VC. It's usually one of the three topics that, maybe I should sit over there. Where is it? Yes, the go-to-market strategy is one of the topics that we always discuss when we first meet a company, after the team, after the presentation of the value proposition. Then this is, what about your go-to-market strategy? And here, the idea is to think and to speak about picking a vertical. Short introduction. Very happy to have Adrien and Yann and Xavier on the stage. What we should do very quickly would be for you to introduce the activity of your company, so they're all B2B SaaS company, but maybe more importantly, the maturity of your company, one KPI that would show how mature is your company.
Hi everyone, my name is Xavier. I'm the founder and CEO of Zenchef. So Zenchef is a SaaS startup that is helping restaurants manage their reservations and online communication directly. So that means without any intermediaries, so that they don't have to pay commissions. We started like 7 years ago, and now have more than 4,000 customers. We raised around like 9 million euros, and now we are a team of little more than 50 employees.
Good morning, everyone. Yann Lechell, COO at Snips. So Snips is a company that builds voice assistants. What we've done is recreate the entire stack to manage the voice from the wake word all the way to the interpretation of what the natural language expresses. And the way we've built this is to do privacy by design in the product, so that means that whatever we operate runs on a small computer on the edge. So to achieve this, we've built a team of 60 people in Paris, and so this is an enterprise solution, not SaaS, because it's embedded, but we deliver the solution in a way that is in a traditional license scheme. In other words, we charge per device a license fee, a single license fee, and then there's an array of services around this.
Hello, everybody. I'm Anne. I'm the CEO of Freespee. This is my 7th scale-up, so I've done this a few times before. Freespee is a conversational cloud platform. What we do is very simply bridge the gap between what the user does online and its entire browsing journey into the conversation. So that starts with very simple call tracking and dynamic numbers, but then it goes into AI and predictive routing, creating unique user journeys where instead of being sent to IVR with press 1, press 2, press 3, press 4 with good old Vivaldi music, it literally will decide who you should talk to based on your behavior and your unique identity as a user. And then it does all of the loop in terms of sales impactfulness and making sure that you're closing those transactions and that the user has had an impactful conversation. So in those first 15 seconds of the conversation, the person speaking to you knows what you're looking for, whether you're angry, happy, or sad, whether you actually want to buy something or complain about what you already have. And so the person answering your call has a meaningful conversation. We've been around for 7 years. We're lucky enough that we have our market fit, we're profitable, we have some money in the bank. So this year is all about investment in the team, and we'll literally be doubling the team to finish the year at about 120, because the sector is moving so quickly. This is the year of hyper growth and accelerating that hyper growth beyond the 8% where we're already growing year on year.
So I'm Adrien Menard. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Botify. So at Botify, we're building a new standard in organic search analytics, or SEO. It means that we help large websites like Macy's, like Expedia, eBay, to drive more traffic and revenue from Google. The company has about 100 employees now in 3 offices between Paris, New York, and London.
Okay, so first question, can you explain to us today why you did choose to select a vertical in your go-to-market strategy, or why you didn't select any vertical?
So for me, actually, naively, we thought that the restaurant industry is a very big industry, under-digitized. So there was a big need, like 7 years ago, to provide solutions for any kind of services that would help restaurants optimize their operations, get more clients, and so on. But the mistake we did by choosing this industry was thinking that it was a very large industry, that was only one by trades that has that had only the same characteristics, and it was a big mistake because. Like the first year, we discovered that actually there were many sub-industries in the restaurant sector, and we had to pick like one vertical where we would be very good, where we could have a good product market fit, because trying to target like fast foods or gastronomic restaurants at the same time would not work at all.
Okay, any other example that you can share?
So in our case, we decided not to focus on any particular vertical at first, because we are, in fact, a deep tech company. We build technology in a field that is changing rapidly. So today, we all know that Amazon Alexa and Google Home are selling smart speakers at a rapid pace. It's actually extremely rapid, to the point where the adoption is unprecedented. There's never been a category of consumer devices that grows that fast. When we started becoming operational in terms of product and sales, which was a little less than a year ago, when we started opening discussions, everyone was interested in voice. So right now, in our CRM, we have 800 companies in a B2B sense with an industrial play. We've started business relationships with 50 of them, and we've delivered 20 pilots to date. Now, the thing is, in every vertical that we could identify, there was a wide variety of maturity. So some companies were ready to build a voice assistant inside a device. Some of them had no idea about the hardware that they would want to build into the device, and therefore the software would be subject to the hardware. And some of them had absolutely no plan, and was just part of the innovation department that wanted to play with this. And a lot of companies came from the chatbot angle, where they said, okay, we have conversational and text, now we need to do voice. But the thing is, you don't convert a chatbot into a voice assistant. It doesn't scale. So the maturity was so different that we decided to be really open about the prospects and learn along the way. So today we have 4 verticals and 1 horizontal, which is Industry 4.0, that represents our main efforts. But it's taken at least a year to not specialize at all and see what's coming and where the business potential was.
In our case, we spent the first 5 years, and I should say I joined Freespee 6 months ago at one of those points of transition where the founder goes, I'm not the right person for the next scale. And when I came in, for the last 6 years, we had done no focus. It was just kind of, we'll sell to whoever seems interested in our product. And in fairness, they did fantastically well without that. And similar to what we were talking about in your presentation, we hadn't done the work of the buyer persona and that detailed customer journey. So coming in as a new CEO, I was like, okay, so why are we successful? What makes us good? What are they doing with our platform? And we didn't have that data recorded properly. So I decided, fine, let's look at the consumers that are using the platform the most, because clearly those are the ones you're having the most business impact on. And we tried to find trends amongst this, and it's still very early stage, but there were 2 categories that were loving the platform, that were in it every day, that were using every feature, every workflow, every automation tool, and that was the automotive sector and marketplaces. And so I said to the teams, great, let's just focus on that so we learn on those and get to understand the real buyer persona. It was very helpful. Conversion rates increased tremendously, and we're finally getting the data we should have gotten maybe 4 or 5 years ago about what it is that we're solving in terms of problems for those industries. And now what's interesting is you can move it to 10 different verticals because it's about the impact we have and how they use the platform. And therefore the buyer persona becomes not an industry sector, but the value that you bring. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons, is if you're going to go into a vertical, don't do it about you, do it about your client, and where that client it's transformational for their business. And therefore, you're never going to have a price conversation. You're going to have a value conversation. And you will grow that account tremendously because every time they deploy a feature, they're making more money or they have happier customers. That's what is a good vertical.
Okay, so for us, that was a bit different because we were product experts. So it means that we were running an SEO agency and we saw an opportunity on the market to create a SaaS company. And so it means that it was easy to pick up the vertical, obviously. What was less easy, I think, was to select the correct segment of the market. I think we're going to talk about that. But yes, for us, the choice was obvious because we discovered a few things and we had this conviction that the market was potentially, could be potentially disrupted in terms of technologies, in terms of methodologies. And so this is how we started, actually.
If I may, I know I'm supposed to be the moderator, but I think that from the VC perspective, I think here we see different examples of companies that have decided to work on choosing some verticals and some who wants to have more middleware approach. I think at the end of the day, what we want to hear is what process in terms of understanding, knowing your market, why did you make those choice? That's the first point. And the second point also is, I think for me, doesn't require the same type of financing if you're only selecting one vertical, or if you think that the ambition of your product of your project is to be broad and you want to target right from the beginning several verticals. So then the question actually again to try to give you a concrete example and share practices is that to get to this strategy, whether you want to choose or not to choose, can you share some I don't know, methodologies, things that you did to actually structure this strategy? I know we spoke about co-creation, I mean different type of things. Do you have some tools, some methodology that you would like to express today?
I think the magic of SaaS is that you can measure like everything, so that when you first have traction and you think you found a good vertical where you could be very, very good, I think then the end goal is really to scale, and so to test like conversion rates depending on marketing channels and all SaaS metrics that everyone knows, so that it's really easy to maybe confirm in the next month after you found the right vertical to see if there is some scalability possible with that vertical. So my advice would be really to be on the metrics, to be concerned about the like 5-4 best metrics that every SaaS company follow in the next months when you search for scalability.
So in our case, as I described earlier, we have a more traditional non-SaaS business. That's the core business. But because the product is complex, and also we are competing with the likes of Google and Alexa, who have B2B offerings and platforms, we also built a platform on the side so that developers could come on the self-service. So that's a SaaS model in a sense, which is free. And they can start to play with the technology for free. And so we look at that as a pool that feeds into the more traditional sales pipeline. In other words, sometimes we go see a client in, say, the automotive industry, and we find out that 3 or 5 people from their teams have already played with the technology. And that's a huge advantage. So for us, that's the driver. So we have a community of 15,000 developers to date, and that community, in fact, are the decision makers down the line. The other ones are going to say, okay, the technology works, it's valid, so therefore we validate the middleware to be integrated in the future product.
For me, beyond the buyer persona, it's the anchor client. And as founders or CEOs, I hope you individually have that anchor client that tells you everything about what's good, bad about your product. They will know your product roadmap even before it's been published. They will comment on it. They will be super demanding. I think I still remember the names in my last 7 companies of my star clients. They would pick up the phone angry at 2 o'clock in the morning if we had screwed up, and that was exactly right. They would push my teams to such a degree because they were so demanding but loving of the product. They would literally come into our offices every month and give a pep talk. Depending on how the month was, that was a different kind of pep talk, but it was really important because they were using the product inside out. They were product experts, and they were very, very generous in terms of co-creation and co-collaboration. They helped design the product with us, and it was a true partnership for 3 years, 3 to 5 years, and that anchor client makes it all come to life and really drives value. So every team, every vertical, every market should have an anchor client that really is truly a partner.
Yeah, I do agree with what you just said. In our case, I think that from day one, even with no product, we had customers. So what does it mean? It means that we build the first versions of the product directly with the customers. We defined the needs together. We obviously understood what was complex to develop together. And I think it made a huge difference because it means that from day 0, you're really going to build something that is going to achieve or to answer the needs of the potential buyers. And so I think it's really, really important. And actually today, so the company is obviously at a different size with more products, with a large engineering team. But we are always doing the same things. It means that when we are releasing new features or when we are launching a new product, I can tell you that the customers are going to be involved into the product definitions, into the product releases, and into the product evaluations. I think it's key if you really want to answer what the customer is requiring.
And to choose a vertical has also implication on what type of pricing you want to put in place, what type of distribution you want to implement, whether it's a self-service product, whether it's a really enterprise software product, or even in your case, Yann, being an embedded product. Also has implication on partnership that you will create with the ecosystem to distribute your product. Any feedback on those different items, pricing, how you deliver your product? By that I mean self-service, enterprise software, or partnership that you could comment that could help the crowd here to understand how they should select their vertical.
Yes, for us, we discovered that our customers, basically restaurant owners or managers, needed to have a salesperson to come to visit them, to make a live demo of the product. So that's basically something you only can do with an average revenue per customer that is high enough to finance a sales team. So usually with an average revenue, in our case, it's around 1,000 euros per year per customer, so that's very low. We should do self-service, but the problem is that our customers in front of us need a live demo. So that is something that we didn't know when we started. So then we found out a solution so that we optimized all our sales process to have SaaS economics that work. But that is something I think that this needs definitely to be sorted out at the beginning.
So for us, the pricing was very interesting to dive into because, in fact, we're being compared to SaaS pricing. So today, the dominant models require a server, and the main players, they charge for free at the beginning, and once you reach a threshold, there's a charge. So for us, the question is the size of the deal and the number of devices or number of interactions. And so we could sell our solution to a number of players. It could be an operator. An operator has millions of users and devices. It could be a plane manufacturer or submarine manufacturer. Now, it's not the same pricing at all, right? So we care about the price of the device or the machine or the vehicle or the quantity of units. So we built a whole matrix that tries to mimic the SaaS pricing at scale And of course, there is the setup. So we build the pricing around the actual tangible objects that use our technology, but we bench against the SaaS pricing. And in some cases, what we want is to be cheaper because it's a license, that is paid once with the components, with the device. So we want that to be cheaper over time because, consider a coffee machine. If there's a voice assistant in a coffee machine, you want that coffee machine to be, a fixed cost once you buy it, and there's no surprise. If Google is powering this coffee machine for voice assistant, the pricing could be $2,000 over 10 years if you use it every day. So, that's an issue for us, and that's how we solved it.
One of the things I'd say is first start establishing, are you SMB or enterprise? Because your go-to-market strategy will change radically. If you're enterprise, are you really going after digital natives whose fundamental jobs then will probably get your software through the engineering and the development community, and then you spend a hell of a lot on the dev community? Or are they fundamentally digital adopters, those traditional brands that are kind of going, this is all hitting us and we need to figure it out? Then it'll be much more of a commercial sale. And if you're in that category, think about that lack of friction at the beginning. So at Freespee, we've become geniuses at what we call land and expand, right? So we will sell to maybe the digital marketeers at the lowest price point with the smallest package, because that's where they can sign off themselves on the purchase order. So we've taken the bid to not say, I'm going to go big with 2 million at the top level. It'll take me 3 years to close this deal, but I'm still going after it. No, because we want people to play with the product. That's when they see the value. So on the contrary, we start with the simplest package, call tracking. And we give it into the hands of digital marketeers that can sign off on that PO in 2 minutes. And then they start going, what's that other functionality I see grayed out? Because it seems really cool. And we're like, let's get you to play with that. And suddenly, if I take a client like Club Med, I think their first purchase was $5,000 over a year. We are now embedded and replaced their IVR system. And when we have team meetings, there's 22 people at the table because they've got customer experience, the call center, the marketeers, the sales teams, and so your customer success team is incredibly important. If you're going to do land and expand, invest massively in a customer success team with customers in it who are obsessed with your clients and who are day-to-day teaching your clients how to take the most value out of the platform.
Yeah. So I think it's exactly the question, actually. I think it's about how much of the value you're delivering you're going to be able to capture. And so it's a key question. And for me, it raises 2 points for SaaS business. I mean, in our case, there is a common mistake that you're probably going to set your pricing too low, which is obviously a bad mistake, because it means that you're going to not to have the money to invest into the marketing, into the product, into the people. So what's going to happen is that you're probably going to raise your pricing over time. In our case, it was true. So we change our segment target from SMBs to the premium segment of the market. And I would say that we are probably changing our pricing every 6 months. I can tell you that it's going to be increased again in January. I told my VP of sales yesterday, and it's very important actually, because I mean, once again, in our case, every company is different, but in the end, you definitely want to capture most of, I mean, not most, it's not possible actually. You know, yesterday night, another example is that I was talking to an American customer, and over the past 12 months, we increased the organic traffic by 70 million visitors. So obviously, if I had a per visit pricing model, I can tell you that they would have paid much more than what they are actually paying now. So it's not always possible to capture everything, but at least you want to try the maximum, to get the maximum, sorry.
Yes, obviously pricing linked to the vertical and the type of customer you're targeting. I think for us as well, as VC, I would link the go-to-market to a concept of simplifying. And especially since Ventech, we are early stage fund, I think that at the beginning, I mean, when we look at a business, we like to see ambition, obviously, but still picking a vertical also allows you to actually put all your strength, financial resource, human resources in one vertical. But I like to hear, and so I think that this go-to-market strategy is also linked to the maturity of your company. And I think that when we discussed to prepare this roundtable, we discussed maybe you have some example that you could discuss. What would be how did you decide at the beginning when you first founded the company, and then when do you think that you have to start again the go-to-market the thinking of your go-to-market strategy based on certain KPI? When is it? I mean, it's always complicated, but when do you think you should go to the next niche market? And maybe first for the one that were a founder of company, what type of advice would you give today to founder who are going to be in this first phase of building their company to verticalize? I mean, to look for verticals or not?
After 7 years, one lesson I learned is that SaaS takes time to scale. So even if we have ambition to scale very fast, we really need to let time at the beginning to become the best at what we do and to become the best in a certain vertical, and really to have some network effects in that vertical, because we start to get a brand that is well known for a specific type of customers. So my advice would be just not to be too much in a rush at the beginning to try to find new verticals, because maybe after 4 or 5 years after the start of a SaaS company, maybe you will not have saturated at all that vertical, and there will be much more business to do. So yes, that's what I would do if I would start again.
So I hear your question, and our own investors around Series A were insisting on us focusing on verticals or a vertical, and we kept repeating that we couldn't settle on one because it would be probably a risk down the line because the market was evolving rapidly. At Snips, we consider ourselves a deep tech company, and I think we are. And we raised 22 million euros to date, all inclusive, including subsidies and grants, in 2 rounds. The last round was a Series A of 12 million euros, and we were pre-revenue for that Series A. I would say that a deep tech company probably is shifted by 1 round, right? So while the investors were right to challenge us to get those verticals, I think it was premature to find the verticals, and in fact, we may have found a partnership around a product that we didn't have around Series A, which will be truly mass market. In other words, what we do is around CPUs, actual mini computers like a Raspberry Pi, where we can deploy a full-fledged voice assistant. But we also did the work recently to work on microcontrollers, so that you can have basic voice commands without the full natural language. But this is truly mass market because the device required to provide this is $3 to $5, right? So you can have proper voice commands while Google and Alexa are educating the market to use voice, right? This is the mass market. And had we focused our energy on one vertical with a core product, we would have missed that. So this is essential. I think the timing is key, but the maturity as well of the company and the type of company.
I think, Anne, you have an example.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, and I know Claire agrees, she's one of our VCs, so I can say it, nobody knows your business as much as you do. Your VCs are there to challenge it, but they don't know your deep tech. They're not a PhD that knows why that was the right decision. So have a debate about it, but follow what you know in your gut. And I know Claire agrees with this. Second thing I would say is I typically take over from founders, right? And when I look at it, founders, and it's completely natural, this is your baby, will get so obsessed about the client that they're losing or the client that's not doing well with their platform, and they tend to over-resource. I'm saying, why are we failing on that vertical? Let's put more resources. They want more customization. We could do it. We could. Let's put more development effort onto this segment. When in fact, that segment needs something else. Go focus on the easy money, the good money, the guys who do see the value. And often the founding team or even the founding sales team will have that obsession about not accepting that failure, because they so want to please and to have the software that's great for everybody. And so a big part of that next phase, when you scale up, because that's my job, is to scale up companies, is to just chill about that and say, yep, that client's not for us. And we did a pretty disastrous job in that vertical, which we need to understand. But more importantly, we need to move on and focus on the guys who can become million-pound clients instead of focusing on the guys where we're still at $5,000 and we just find it so frustrating.
So different answers, but the first one is that yes, if you want to grow your MRR, potentially you have two options. You want to sell the same product to new customers, or you want to sell a new product to the same customers. What you don't want to do is that you don't want to sell a new product to new customers. This is not what, I mean, it's too risky, it's another company potentially, so you don't want to do that. The other point of my answer is that I think, and I mean, in my case, we haven't reached yet the $20 million annual recurring revenue. So it means that I do think that my market is incredibly deep. Today, we have built a company that is almost profitable, of 100 employees, with only 450 customers globally. So, and I think that there can be a potential misunderstanding sometimes when we're talking about SaaS businesses. It's the size of the market. So it leads to this question about which vertical should I go. But first, go deep to what you know exactly how to do and the needs that you're going to answer to your customers. And after that, I didn't do it, to be honest, but I'm sure there will be more opportunities because you have this capacity to build great products, you have this capacity to market what you know how to do, you have this capacity to go to market, so potentially opportunities will come by themselves, I think.
I see time is going, so just to conclude, could you, for each of your organization, could you share with us who was in charge of defining the go-to-market strategy, and who in your own organization was involved in defining this go-to-market?
In our company, obviously me as the CEO and all the people who are facing customers who really have insights about what the customers want and what's working and what's not in our sales strategy or in our customer success strategy. So basically the VP of sales, VP of customer success, the marketing manager, and myself.
So in our case, I'm not one of the founders. The founders were 3 PhDs in machine learning, and the CEO, Rand, is in charge of the vision and the upcoming B2C value proposition. In fact, we're launching an ICO, we started last week, around the consumer product, because we need to exist also in the homes to compete with the likes of Alexa and Google. But for the enterprise business and for the scaling of the core business, I was brought in, and I joined the team 3 years ago to take care of that. So when we came out of our R&D, which was a year and a half ago approximately, decided to recruit our VP business, and he joined last September, and his job was to build the company, and my job is to actually select the verticals when that makes sense.
For me, it's less about who, but it's about the data. All of these decisions should be data-driven, and so you're probably going to have a community within the company that has that data, and make it super scientific, make it about the data. The numbers in SaaS or B2B do not lie. Go back to your usage figure, go back to the churn rate, go back to how quickly you're growing those clients. it's completely data driven. That's how it should be. There's a part of it that's completely R&D where you just take punts. And I think those are important. In B2B businesses, if you're constantly just focusing on what you already have, you're potentially going to miss a big opportunity. So split your team between the guys who are working on the current buyer persona and obsessed with it, and the data is telling you so. And then if you have the capacity, if you've gotten that velocity, create an R&D team whose job it is to just try new stuff and to literally experiment with new clients or new products, and separate the two so that they don't screw up your whole product development process and your development focus. But when you get to a point where you found something fantastic, there might be a great opportunity somewhere else, and get that R&D team to continue to innovate so you don't start plateauing. So it's less about who, because it's usually teamwork, than the data.
Go-to-market is a big question for us.
Yes, and I think maybe I know Adrien because it happens that we are investor. Maybe the switch between self-service, SMB customer and enterprise software.
I think easy answer, but you have to do what you're good at. And in the end, the DNA of the founding team was not SMB. We are good at building an enterprise service, from the sales approach to the technical capacities. And we have one sentence that we are always referring when we are starting a new project at Botify, is that we want to do 10 times faster, 10 times larger, and 10 times cheaper than our competitors. And I don't know why, but at the beginning, we were talking about it, and etc. But we finally decided to go to the SMB segment. And when I'm still thinking about it, so that was the early stage of the company, etc. But that was a mistake, actually, because it says it all. I think it shows that, yes, we are committed to build a strong product, one of the best in class, scalable technologies, etc., etc. And it was obvious that the need on the market segment was oriented to the enterprise. And today, when I'm looking at my portfolio of customers, there are only global brands with global needs, with global ways of evaluating how to pick up a new product. And so once you have decided, obviously you never go back. You really want to rush into the direction that you have decided.
Okay, well, thank you very much for sharing all your experience today, and I wish you all the best, all the successes in your different strategies. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Claire.